Welcome to another Liquid Bullet Productions. Joining me today, Michael Kelly.
Thank you.
For coming, Michael.
Glad to be here.
So, a little bit of an interesting story and a bit of an interesting connection.
It was just the times, 88 to 2008. It was just the crazy years of door work. We were there only the very first week when Roy Shaw came down. On the first night he came down, and the police told us this guy may turn up here and we're not to allow him in, but none of us knew who he was. Yeah. All the boys were South End, we were from North London, we weren't from East London. So he got in, and he got into the VIP, and at the end of the night, when it was time to go and one of the doormen tapped him on the back, he jumped up with a glass in his hand and threatened him, you know, and the management panicked. Like, they had, in this VIP, they had a full grand piano with a guy in a suit playing it, you know. All the women. It's like something out of the 1920s Hollywood. They built it that way. And they didn't want any trouble, so they just let it go and bar him after that. So I think he knew, because the following week then he came down with about 15 guys, you know, all car dealers. He was a car dealer. So he always had these hangers on. And they were knocked back. But the problem was we had all glass doors from one side to the other, just pure glass doors. So when we wouldn't let him in, they started banging on the doors and looking at us and threatening us and making gun signs and we're going to kill you and all of this. So we were getting edgy because the management had come down and said, under no circumstances go out there. But you can't do that to doorman. We're getting abused. And yeah. I remember my hands were like this.
Also, it makes you look like you're sort of scared of them, doesn't it?
Yeah. They also thought that.
Yeah. So
they got worse. So like we were like this, but Lee was on the door. It was very funny. And the glass, how glass doors operated, because you have no locks. You have a latch on the bottom, latch on the top. We always had the latch on the bottom off, and the latch on the top on. So you just opened it to let people in and close it and all this. And I saw Lee, as they were shouting around, slowly click down the thing, and I thought, it's now open. And he put his hand back in the door, and he just looked. That was enough. We went, we got to go here, you know. We're starting to ignore, so we just screamed at the manager, we're going, you know, the hell if we get sacked. And we piled out the door, and Lee hit Shaw clean front, lifted him up in the air and came down on top of him. And we just obliterated it all in front of us. The funny thing was, there was 3 police vans watching it, and they turned on and drove off.
Really?
Yeah, they did a tour of the town, as they said, and came back 20 minutes later. Yeah, well, they hated him. You know, they hated him and they hated his crew. And I don't know if you remember Harry Enfield, loads of money.
Oh, yeah.
Well, they got that from Essex. That was a thing. They used to come in balls of what? Wrapped in, it was just embarrassing, you know, to be waving around champagne, this, you know. One of his friends that I didn't like, he had 2 Greek brothers that used to come. And he made a big deal of telling me his watch was more than I'd earn in the year, you know, and you're nothing. So yeah, we were well prepared, like, to just meet out. And once we saw the police go, there was no holding back. And Shaw was dangerous, so Lee had to deal with him, and he dealt with him. My God, he broke him up. So an ambulance then, 3 ambulances came and took them away. The police never questioned us, nothing. They just, everything all right? Yep. And at 4 a.m., we finished the night, because this was about 12 o'clock. We finished the night at 2, had a drink afterwards to talk about it. We were gone out there by 3. Shaw arrives back at 4:30 in the morning, unconscious. He was unconscious, and he let himself out of hospital. He came back with a hammer or something he got from his house. I don't know what they found him hiding behind the bins. He thought we were still in there. He was delirious. So the follow-up to that, of course, is
Who was it found him?
The police.
The police found him?
Yeah, someone must have said he was down hanging around. And we had an all-night bus station there, right opposite. So I would imagine the bus drivers were looking at him thinking, what's going on here, you know? Because he had a big bandage on his head. So it wasn't, it wasn't hard to find him. And then, of course, I didn't know, but I now know, and I'm well aware of, is this Essex thing of like, oh, you're going to be sorted, son, this thing, you know, this ain't going to be let go, you know. Ooh. The rumours started going, you know. And there was going to be hundreds coming back and they want to shoot this. So we decided, you know, we can't wait for this. We might as well deal with it head on. So we went over to the Brewery Tap, which was the ground central for gangsters in East London at the time.
What was that called again, sorry? The
Brewery Tap in Barking. Yeah, oh, rough as they come now. And we went in, I think there was about 25 of us went in, and we locked all the doors and just started roaring, looking for Shaw, and basically terrorising the place without doing anything to terrorise the place, just to let him know that we're looking for him and to stop anyone joining him. And that was the end of it. We never heard no more after that. I detested Shaw. I thought he was a nasty, bullying scrote. 2 years later, I had a fight with him myself down in Secrets. You know, he just, no matter how old he got, he wouldn't stop. He wasn't right. You know, for Lenny, for all the people, I know Lenny, they say Lenny was an angry man, he was a bully and everything else. He bullied people that could and should have been bullied. That's the difference. Shaw, in his own book, describes how he glassed a guy who looked at his wife out at a corporate boxing event, you know. What I call a nobody, you know. Yeah. You can beat those guys up every day of the week. You can pad your record, as you say, with all these people. It doesn't mean anything, but that's the difference between the two of them. Yeah.
So he was a little bit like a loose cannon with voice short.
Yeah, well, he was declared insane.
Yeah.
When he went to jail. He was in Broadmoor, sure. I mean, that was for the criminally insane. So yeah, he wasn't wired right. Yeah. And you could see it in him. He had wild eyes, and his brain, every time he thought, his eyes would go, and you didn't know what was coming next. So they were right. The management were dead right. You couldn't have a guy like that in the club. Because one night he'd be happy as Larry, and the next minute,
it's
no.
Unpredictable. It's like a walking time bomb, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it continued. No, there was a lot of fun nights too, you know, and crazy nights. I mean, it was the 80s, bouffant hair, XR3 eyes, and lycra dresses, you know, what's not to like?